Yeah. Bow. This is Fourth and Fantasy. I am
Let's
Honcho,
go.
and this is my guy.
It's Rocco. Call me Rocco, man. That music gets me in the mood, man.
I'm
I'm a white
telling
boy
you, boy,
dancing. I do my best dancing in this seat right here.
it just gets you going. I tell you, boy. Hey, man, how you feeling, Rocco?
Feeling good, man. I'm glad to be back on, and I'm glad to tackle this topic, man. It's a topic that has a lot of interest to me. And before we get started, man, I've been wanting to ask you. We've been on air for months and months and months.
Yeah.
How'd you get the name Huncho?
And how did I get the name Honcho? So it's kind of just something that's always, for the last, I say, 6 years or so, that's stuck with me. And it's kind of just a personality. It's my alter ego, if you will, of how I
It sure is.
feel about myself. Yeah, that I'm just, when I get into that mode, I'm Honcho. And use that for my everyday life mood, whether it's at work, whether it's just, you know, how I go about my day. I just feel like I'm honcho. So that just stuck with it. And then
Nice.
I started using it at work. I started calling like the cues that I had under me honcho and things like that. And then just it kind of just stuck after that. So that's why I like to go by. That's why when I go and get me some crumble cookie, I put Honcho so they can call me out. I actually been asked multiple times, "Is my real name Honcho?" It's not, and I wouldn't legally change my name because I do like my real name, which is Glenn with two N's.
Mhm.
By the way, don't mess that up, motherfucker. I'm just telling you that. But no, Honcho, it's a vibe. It's a state of mind of how I just like to go about life.
Man, when I order my stuff, I like to put my regular name and watch the people struggle.
You know,
Struggle.
I've never met another
That,
Seriaco. So you are,
that.
yeah. It's like because
Every time I see them struggle, I'm like, oh yeah, that's my shit. My shit's ready.
he said my shit ready right there. But like Rocco mentioned,
Serratio, Ratio,
right,
Sriracha.
that's why I literally had to go and start calling him Rocco. Because if y'all will go back and look at our earlier episodes, I was fucking this man's first name up,
Man,
killing it,
I'm just
butchering
quick
it.
to just make it easy on people. Most people call me C Rocco. Um, very few call me by my full name on a consistent basis. Even my wife calls me C.
Yeah, I like CEO Rocco. That works out for me. But like Rocco stated when we began this video, it's an interesting topic because every year since Puka came out and balled out, we've been looking for that next Puka, whether it's a wide receiver, whether it's a running back, just that undercover, low level, very under the radar prospect that is just people don't know about. Not a lot of people knew about Puka Nakua last year. Hell, if we go back and look at the draft last year, there were a couple of names that ended up having some big years. Bucky Irving was a very well known third or fourth round pickup. Tyrone Tracy was a very much a fourth round pickup and maybe even a waiver claim for you. So listen, there are guys like it's easy to know about the top level guys. It's easy to know about the elite guys because everybody's talking about them, right? But knowing and learning and figuring out those small school guys or just the guys that don't have their name out there as much is also a very key skill to have. Don't look at the top level. Go at the
Hmm.
very low level. And these guys can be end up being nobody would have thought Tyrone Tracy would have had and except for me, if actually I will go back, I would try to find a tweet that I had before the season, but I literally called that Tyrone Tracy would end up being RB1 by midseason for the Giants of how just off of what I saw on tape, him moving over to the running back because he was a converted wide receiver. I knew that Tyrone Tracy would, if he got the opportunity, if he went to a team that where he could show off his skills, that he would most likely, take advantage of that. And he
Hmm.
ended, Devin Singletary ended up getting hurt. And what did he do? He ended up showing out. So I do love me some Tyrone Tracy. But what do you think about the under the radar guys, the third, fourth rounders, if you will?
Man, two of my championship teams last year got to that point because of fourth round and free agent pickups. Puka Nakua was a big part of my one of my championship teams. Bucky Irving, who I got in the mid fourth, was a big part of my championship team. Had a lot of Tyrone Tracy, man. You put us on Tyrone Tracy early, and I got him on a lot of teams, man. He was a running back too, you know, by mid-season. So
Yeah.
what I think is that these are the pieces that make a team from good to great. These are the pieces that take a really good team and make them, almost unstoppable. This is what separates, the men from the boys, getting these guys on your team. And I'm excited to talk about some of the guys that stood out for me in this class. What what kind of started this process and this assignment was I was looking at PFF and I was looking at the elusive rating, which Bucky Irving was number one in the league last year, and
Mhm.
I found some guys near the top that I wasn't hearing, in these draft circles. Wasn't hearing about these guys being drafted very early in the top 3 rounds. And boy, you look at their tape and you see why they have a high elusive rating. These guys are a fun watch.
Yeah. I think that when you start looking at some of these, under the radar guys, very, prospects that people don't know about, you end up finding some gems. Some guys you're like, hold
Hmm.
on now, you look like you're showing a little some on this film, and I kind of always gets me excited because if you are the only one who really knows about this prospect, or you personally see. That's basically kind of how I felt about Jalen Royals at the start of the draft process. Not that many people were talking about him. Had me thinking I could end up snagging him in that mid to later round of the second. That quickly went out the window after the Senior Bowl. Now he's looking to be like a early to mid no pick. So we will see with Jalen Rose. Now with these guys, like, and I don't want to say the names yet, but you're definitely going to want to, at that point, we call these in the third, fourth round dart throws, right? It's
Hmm.
you're mainly looking to hit on your first rounders and your second rounders. Those are the guys that you want to actually. Your first rounders are your elite guys that are 100%. You're looking to have a some type of starting role for the next foreseeable future. Those are how you look at your first round guys. Your second round guys can end up being a starter, but more so they're for depth as well. Those are they're your depth pieces that have starter upside. That's how I look at the second round. And then you got the third and fourth round that are your dart throws, if you will. You don't, these are your stashes. These are guys that you think potentially, if he were to get a chance to start, whether he has guys in front of him, whether it's him being a developmental type prospect, like we saw, there was a lot of times where I was going out to get me a Rattler
Hmm.
for stashes because he was one of the even better. Jalen McMillan was going in the third and fourth round of rookie drafts, and look what he ended up being for the Bucks and going on. I believe the last 5-6 weeks of the NFL having a touchdown consecutively. Chris Godwin was banged up, and then Mike Evans ended up getting banged up, and then Jalen McMillan ended up getting his number called a lot more. Like I said, with David Singletary, ended up getting hurt. Tyrone Tracy gets more opportunities and he
Hmm.
doesn't let up off the gas. This is what happens. And especially with the running back position, these guys get hurt and all they need is a good opportunity to show out. And
It's
my
always
first,
next man up.
yes, always next man, especially at running back. And the first person that I will put up, Rocco actually got me hip to this guy. I didn't really know much about him, but the more I got into the tape and I started watching, there was something about him that made me think, I really bang with this guy. Like his tape, it wasn't nothing that was super spectacular, but just how he reminded me of a specific Rams running back who didn't test great, who on film, he looked cool, but it was nothing that athletically stuck out to you. The person that I am speaking of is Corey Kiner, and I
Oh,
have,
let's see that tape. Let's
yeah,
see
you
that
can
tape.
throw up a little some
Oh,
tape for you guys. He
that
is
little
from
sidestep was
Cincinnati.
nice.
Yeah, I think I tell you, he says so many things that reminds me of Kyron Williams from him, but he is from Cincinnati. He is 5'8". I'm seeing anywhere from him being 212 pounds to 215 pounds, which is hella solid at 5'8". He's a really dense running back, and you can see that on film. Like he holds that weight well, which gives him a lot of low center of gravity, if you will, when he's running through the middle of the defense. He's been projected to have a 4.640 around there, which sounds a lot like Kyron Williams. He was in that four
Hmm.
six range. So that's why I said athletically wise, nothing in that realm sticks out to you. But he just makes plays in the open field. He is the fifth Bearcat with consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. He ended his career with 2,562 rushing yards, which was eighth in school history. He had 13 100-yard games, which was fifth in school history. In 2004, he had 80 missed forced tackle. He sorry, excuse me, 80 forced missed tackles, which was fourth in the nation.
Hmm.
80, crazy. 204 attempts, 1,153 rushing yards, four touchdowns, and a 5.7 yards per carry. He wasn't very much involved in the passing game with 16 catches, 111 receiving yards, but at the same time, some of the pros that I have for him, great vision. I think he would be super effective in an outside zone scheme. He is very decisive with his cuts, very quick with his cuts as well, which you see very much on here. Once he sees it, he goes. He does. There's not very much a wasted movement with him, which helps since he doesn't have long speed or is really that explosive. If we're being honest, then ball security. He's only had one fumble throughout his whole career. Rocco, I know you will agree with me. Fumbling will be the death of a running back in the NFL. Though
Except for Kyron Williams. Kyron Williams keeps fumbling and they keep trotting his ass right back out there. So maybe he
I know
could be a Kyron Williams.
maybe Sean McVay get tired of that. No, listen, we saw with Ramondre Stevenson this past season, and it could have been also a Mayo thing with Gerard Mayo and the previous head coach. But we saw Ramondre Stevenson, who literally just signed a contract extension, get benched because he couldn't stop fumbling. So that should just kind of just shows to tell you, and we know this is always one of the greater stories when it comes to fumbling. We can always just bring up Tiki Barber and where his career was going, how he was having fumbling issues, and then he got that cleaned up, and then he ended up having a better career. The cons that I had for Corey Kiner, like I said, is his long speed. He's not very explosive. He's not going to be the one who pulls away from you or a home run threat. He's limited in the passing game. And then I also wrote that he has a sort of a limited bag. And when I say a limited bag, he doesn't have an arsenal of moves to make you miss, right? He, I think his calling card is seeing it, making a decisive cut, and getting through the hole. And he always falls forward. That's one thing I love about him. He falls forward. He has a sturdy build. His vision's good, and that's why he reminds me of Kyron Williams. He does.
Hmm.
You don't really. We've seen in the NFL. You don't need to have speed. That's not one. That's not the all be all trait for a running back. I think his I think his 10-yard split will be just fine. And like I said, if he gets into a scheme where he can use his vision and do be a one cut back and just go, I like me some Corey Connor.
Yeah, yeah, I like him. Some of the notes I had on him, he had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons for Cincinnati, which was no simple feat because they were 53rd in the nation in run blocking grade according to PFF. Uh, like you said, the vision, the footwork. I think he's a little bit more athletic than you give him credit for. I just think he doesn't have the long speed because you see him getting kind of caught from behind, but he's shifty in the short area and
Yeah,
but what I like is this looks like he like thinks the game like he's always setting up his blockers and getting that extra
like Cat.
space.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah, and he's built like a fire hydrant, very sturdy, and he's slippery, like you said, decisive, but he's also slippery off of tackles as well, just kind of giving somebody just a little bit of body just to kind of squeeze past them and then get that forward lean. And he's kind of an unknown in the passing game. They just didn't throw to him. When they did throw to him, he caught the ball. He didn't have a lot of targets, but he pretty much caught all of them. So he's kind of an unknown. I guess they just didn't use their backs that way. Um, but I think he does have a little bit of upside in that area. It's just unknown at this point, but he just seems like a just a really solid football player. Like
I have to go back on this one. That shit. He just look at how he just ran through this motherfucking chest. Get the fuck off me! Oh my god. He, he said, "I'm gonna put my whole head in your chest, slam you to the ground. I'm 5'8", 215. Your mama's a hoe. Get off me. Stop playing with me." I love watching this man's film, yo, and thank you for
he,
getting me hip to this guy, yo, because
he
it's
finishes he finishes fucking runs. He's no bitch back there. He's getting there. He's making his presence felt. Look at that. They went after his leg and he kept his contact balance and kept moving. I see a lot of that with him. He's not that easy to get to the ground.
yeah,
Just
love me
flip
some
him right
Corey Connor.
there. Boom. Keep going.
Look at
Keep
yes,
going. Give him a stiff arm. Come get some of this. Yeah, we both going down.
yeah, he's a warrior, and I'm going to if it, in that third, fourth round, there's going to be a lot of value, right? And if he
Whew,
goes
set
to
that
a
guy up.
RB ready team, or RB needy team, if you will, man, I do like me some Corey Connor in the right, landscape of things. If he
I
goes, go ahead.
I think he can kind of emerge anywhere. The hard thing is, he's probably going to be a late round pick, so he's just kind of have to wait his turn, or not hope somebody gets hurt, but somebody could get hurt and he could get on the field. But I think he can handle some of the load. He's not a small back. He's short, but he's not
No,
small, so he
yeah.
can definitely handle carries, and I think he would fit on a lot of teams.
Now the second person on this list is still a running back, I will say, but he's completely different from Corey Kiner, I will say, when it comes to build, when it comes to just how their overall game. I found out about this guy and just fell in love with it because I saw the dual threat playmaker.
Hmm.
And if you don't know who I'm talking about, you're going to know in this very moment. I'm talking about my guy, Marcus Yarns from Delaware, one of the few FCS players to be invited to the Senior Bowl. He even got invited to the East West Shrine Bowl. That shows you that there is some NFL potential from him. Marcus, like I said, is from Delaware. He is 5'10", 195, so a slender build, but he's reported to run in the 4.4 range, and he might even run quicker than that. He earned first team All CAA. He earned third team FCS All American honors. In 2024, he had 133 attempts, 844 rushing yards, 6 touchdowns to go with 6.3 yards per carry. He had 17 catches, 297 receiving yards, 5 touchdowns. So he had over 1,000 yards all purpose. What you do see from him is, and then let me also talk about his 2003 year, which was even better than his 2024 year. He had 135 attempts, 940 rushing yards, 7 yards per carry, 15 touchdowns, 24 catches, 311 receiving yards, and 3 touchdowns. One thing that you do see on his film time and time again is that elite initial burst he has. He gets up to speed fairly quickly and maintains that speed throughout, the run, and you barely see him actually get caught. Look at that move that he just put on that linebacker there to get up the field. He has natural hands. He was a converted wide receiver. And once again, like we saw with Tyrone Tracy, also a converted wide receiver, they do fairly well in the receiving portion of the game, and he's able to make people miss too. But like I said, he has natural hands. Once again, ball security is a plus with him. He's only had one fumble and 429 career touches. That's really great. He's elusive, and I put this in capital letters. Explosive playmaker, whether it's him catching the ball, running the ball. He is like, look at, he's not, and it doesn't look like he's running that fast, but he doesn't really get caught.
No, he's
The,
gliding.
yeah, he's gliding. He's a glider. The cons that I did have for him, he's 195, so he has a lean build. Not He's not meant for a workhorse type of role, but I think he could be a really good change of pace kind of guy. If we are thinking about measurables of other running backs that are in that range, we could start thinking of like a Aaron Jones. He's about 5'10", 195 ish, and both him and you see it in Aaron Jones's game where he's used in that passing game and his hands are really reliable, and he can still run inside, he can still run outside. I really do like Marcus Yarns' game. His acceleration, receiving ability make him an immediate mismatch weapon out of the backfield, particularly in spread formations where he can operate in space and make people miss. I think his best fit comes in zone-based systems that can get the most out of his one-cut ability and get him involved in the screen game. Teams such as the Ravens, how they use Justice Hill,
Hmm.
or the Eagles, the Dolphins, such as them, could view him as an ideal change of pace option to diversify their running back attacks. Now, like I said, his frame is going to limit him a little bit. He's not going to get workhorse production, right? Because he's not going to. I maybe he could, but I don't see him holding up fairly well. We even see it sometimes with Aaron Jones of him getting banged up. It just happens with guys like that. But with his receiving prowess and his explosive playmaking, he is very much an intriguing day 3 target. I'm not sure a lot of people are even going to know about him. This is when Rocco's saying get into your bag and knowing about these low level guys. And I say low level guys, but when I say that, it's just these guys are who aren't well known prospects. He can very much. He has the tools to outperform his draft position. But what do you think, Rocco?
Yeah, I'm just looking up a few things on him. He was fifth in career explosive run percentage. That's runs of 10 yards or more. And he's right behind, he's right ahead of my guy, Damian Martinez. Another thing that I saw according to Real Analytics, he had a max speed of 21.8 miles per hour. That basically projects to him running a 4.38 to 4.40. And if he runs that time, he will climb up boards because the NFL loves speed.
Oh
Um,
yes.
he has a 91.5 speed score, um, and they actually project him to be a possible emerging star. So he's a guy that can be a late pick, find his way onto the right team. Even like, I don't know, maybe a forward type thinking team that kind of puts their players in a good position to succeed. Maybe not a traditional type of football team, maybe like the Miami Dolphins could find a role for him coming out the
Phew.
backfield because
I will
they
say,
are speed merchants.
yeah, I will say also you can even think of kind of how the Cleveland Browns use Jerome Ford in a way in that passing game that they had. I think Marcus Jones could be used in the exact same way. And there are teams that need running backs. The Las Vegas Raiders comes to mind of someone who needs running backs. Um,
Yeah, I think he
there,
projects more as uh, like another piece in a running back room. You know, you're gonna want if you look at it like a small, you know, basketball team, you're gonna want your power people and you're gonna want
mm,
your speed guys. So I think the Dolphins, they'll probably draft a big guy to kind of take in those up the middle and between the tackles carries, but they can just find a weapon like this. Another team that I thought about was the Denver Broncos. They are looking for that joker player that they can just use as a
a
mismatch all over
Kamara,
the field.
if you will.
hmm hmm
hmm I
So
do.
yeah,
I agree with that.
he's an
Yeah.
exciting player.
You know who also I think would be, and before we go to our next prospect, the New England Patriots, and be used in that. And he's smaller than the James White, but the way they use James White in that passing game,
hmm
I could 100% see Josh McDaniels fall in love with a guy, and they love these small school type of players. I could see Marcus Jones getting super involved in the New England Patriots offense. With but once again, that would also I have a lot of Ramondre Stevenson shares, so I don't want him to be taken out of the passing
Yeah,
game. But man, he's a playmaker.
Ramondre is definitely in danger right now. He is very much in danger. He is in the danger zone.
Our next prospect is another one of Rocco's guy. He got me hip. This is the second prospect Rocco's gotten me hip to, and I honestly don't think I would say nobody else would really know much about him because shit. When we were looking for data, there wasn't much data out there.
Ain't much at all.
There's not a lot of film out there for y'all. But the prospect I'm talking about is Kylin James from UNLV. And I'll let you take the reins here, Rocco. Let us know about your guy.
Yeah, yeah. Some of the notes I have on this guy, and this guy is a true sleeper. Like there isn't a bunch of information at all, unless you're a UNLV fan, which there must not be a lot of because nobody's cutting up tapes on my guy. But the things I like about him is he's number two in elusive rating, and I don't know if we've talked about this, but elusive rating is basically a PFF signature stat that measures the success and impact of a runner independent of the blocking. So even if the blocking's bad, he's still getting yards. Um, like we said, 6'2", 225, so perfect size for a workhorse back. But on his career, he's 7.5 yards per carry. He was a three-star prospect coming out, so he wasn't just a nobody coming out. He did have some stars coming in. On his resume, he has 40 and 53 catch seasons. And some of the things I saw on tape, he can really force missed tackles in space, which helps him get that awesome elusive rating. Got really fluid hips. You can see him kind of kind of go towards the defender and then just kind of swivel his hips to the outside. I don't know if that's going to work all the time in the pros, but it's definitely a skill of his. Um, but the bad thing is there's not a lot of tape. Some of the downsides I saw with him is that he gets caught from behind a lot, so I don't think he has that uh, top high end speed, especially long speed. Um, and he looks to bounce. He looks to bounce outside a lot. But besides that, I think he has a lot to work with. And for a guy that's probably not going to be drafted, um, he's not a bad guy to put at the end of your taxi squad and see what happens.
I agree. Some of the notes that I had for him was that in his 2000, like Rocket was pointing out, he only had 89 attempts this past year for 653 rushing yards.
Hmm.
Like Rocco noted, 7.3 yards per carry, which is absolutely great. The pros that I have for him, for a guy who is 220 plus, he is nimble as hell.
Hmm.
Like the way his feet are so light, and he gets through the hole.
Hmm.
It's actually pretty impressive for a guy his size. He's really hard to bring down with his size. He typically is always falling forward, which I like. And then one of the pros that I will say is that he's has light tread on the tires, which is a good thing for a running back per se. Like if you were if he was to get his opportunity, we at least know that he hasn't been worn down to the ground. And then I put this also in capital letters, receiving ability,
Hmm.
right? Rocco noted to it that in 2023 he had 52 catches, 498 receiving yards. 2022 he had 40 catches, 581 receiving yards, and that ended up being 14.5 yards per catch. 14.5 yards per catch. That is crazy. You know, another person who kind of he reminds me of Ramondre Stevenson.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. He was another guy that people weren't hip to that kind of came out of nowhere and took a stranglehold on that Patriots job and basically until this year when he had all his fumbling issues. But
mhm.
this is how crazy this class is
I'm
that
telling you.
we're talking about guys. I had I've looked on Twitter for a few minutes. I've done the research. I've looked on YouTube trying to find out as much information because the only thing that hit me to this guy was the fact that he was number two in the nation in elusive rating. Um, but there's just not a lot of information on this guy. But that's just kind of speaks to the depth of this class that you got guys that are 6 foot, 225 pounds that have tape like fucking this
Mhm.
that nobody even knows about. That probably not getting drafted. If he does get drafted, he's going to be a late round pick. But
Yep.
he probably looks better than probably 80% of the guys drafted last year based on tape and size alone. So
Yeah, we
that's
had
just
some small.
that's just
Yeah.
astounding to me.
No. Yeah. It's gonna, and we won't. It's not to say that this class is elite, right? I will. It's more about this class is super deep to
Hmm.
where we're talking about, yes, we could you could have got Burkett Irving in the third or fourth round last year, but with the guys that we're even talking about are this class is so damn deep that they might not even they could be there in the third. They're most likely. Well, actually, I'll tell you about. They most likely are there in the third. They could be there in the fourth, but these guys could even be on your waivers. That's what we're talking. And you and the
They
film
probably
that we're
would be. Yeah.
showing you, yeah. So that's a says the in a couple of leagues where I was able to get Tyrone Tracy on waivers. This is this type of scenario of winning a ball, knowing what prospects to go after. This could really can be, Tyrone Tracy saved me this year where injuries were at an all-time high across all positions. Tyrone Tracy, slotted into my RB2 role on a lot of teams. Bucky
Hmm.
Irving slotted into my RB1 role on a lot of teams. So knowing these guys and knowing who to really look for is really important. Now, on to our fourth guy. And this is one of he's our only wide receiver on the list. Not just because, it's a fairly weak class for wide receivers anyway, but he's, when we're talking about sleeper, he, he's oh, copyright. Thought I took the volume off of that. No, thank you. Won't hit me with a copyright strike. I tell you that. So this is Efton Chism, and sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, but that's how I feel like it should be said. Efton Chism the third, wide receiver out of Eastern Michigan. He is 5'11", 200 pounds. He's projected to run about a 4.5 40. Now, in 2024, he had 120 catches, 1,311 yards receiving, 13 touchdowns, and in 2023, 83 catches, 927 receiving yards, and 8 touchdowns. One of the things that few of the pros that I have on him were good body control. He has natural hands, plucks the ball away from his frame, separates pretty easily, and that's evident on film. Now, I will say, Rocco, he does go to Eastern Michigan. Now, last time I checked, the competition isn't the greatest at Eastern.
Eastern
at
Michigan or Eastern
sorry,
Washington?
excuse me, at Eastern Washington. The competition isn't the greatest at Eastern Washington, but at the same time, what I do want to see with these guys or at smaller schools is them dominating their competition. If you're at a smaller school and you look like you're just among the guys, you should be looking like a man amongst boys. That's the type of film that we should be seeing, and that's what I saw in 2024 from Efton Chisholm. It's the vibes that he gave me a bit was a more you know a bigger in a way Wes Welker, if you will. I'm not
Hmm.
saying that because he's white, but it's like, or actually you could even say that, or he could be a Christian Kirk to me as well, right? To where he could win all three phases of the field, whether it's short
Hmm.
game, middle of the field, deep ball. He doesn't need long speed to win deep. I think he just naturally knows how to run his routes and set up defenders well to win the route. I really like Efton Chisholm. He was invited to the East West Shrine game where he did have a good showing, and his name started to make more noise and around the draft process. And teams are starting, or scouts are starting to take notice to his game. He's one of my underrated wide receivers, and if I'm 100%, I think I'll be able to get him on waivers each time, every time, actually, or in that fourth, unless somebody really knows about him. But what are your thoughts of Efton?
Yeah, I'm just kind of looking at some highlights. I really didn't know him. which I give you credit for. You shine a light on a lot of people. I didn't know coming into the process, especially this early. With our Debbie Player of the League week,
Mm,
you get me to Jalen Royals. Um, but fun fact about this guy, he went to Eastern Washington University, who also has another um,
speak on it.
Pro Bowl, Pro Bowl wide receiver, former Triple Crown winner, went
Speak on
there
it.
as well. And um, this guy actually broke his single season receptions records of 120 passes. He caught a pass in 53 straight games, and he only has 11 career drops on 359 catchable targets, 87
Mm.
career missed tackles forced, almost 2,000 career yards after the catch. I can read this tweet, and he broke Cooper Cup's
Yes, he did.
collegiate record. I mean, when you could be in the same sentence as a Cooper Cup, I know people, down on him because he had a bad year. Whatever. That man was a Triple Crown winner and a Super Bowl winner just a few years ago. Uh, but if you could be on the same plane, the same field of accomplishments as that guy, that's a
I'm
guy that
telling
I
you.
want to keep my eyes on.
I'm telling you, yo, and yo, I'm happy that you brought up the Cooper Cup stat because people forget, and yes, is Cooper Cup injured a lot? Yes. But let's not forget what a healthy Cooper Cup in his prime looked like. That's Now I'm not saying Efton Chism III is going to be Cooper Cup, right? We never know that we won't know. But one thing is we can say is that when you're watching the film, he is showing out on these guys that he's going against, whether they are Power Five or not. Who cares, right? If his game can translate how I think it will translate, oh yeah, he's definitely going to be on numerous of my stash teams this upcoming season. And if we have one more, our last prospect of our last prospect of the show, the episode, and let me make sure I got the clip for it, y'all.
Get the clip.
Let
Brah,
me get let me get the clip. And
brah.
he was an added piece to this list uh, from our guy Rocco here. This is another I knew about him, but Bhayshul Tuten or Tuten, yes, that's his name.
I thought it was
Um,
tooting.
Thank you. It is Tuten. Damn it.
You know, like
I'm telling
like I
like
went to the club in the '80s. I went to the bathroom. I took a toot.
I think it's because when I was watching his highlights and the announcers, they'll always be like, "Look at Tuten that thing."
Maybe it is. I've never seen him play in college, so you may be right.
Yeah, let me
I
speak
don't know.
on
I
him.
guess I have to wait until I see him on in the pros to get his name right, or at least until he gets drafted.
Hmm. Let me tell you, Rocco. Out of everybody that we talked about so far on this list, he is the or projected right to be the fastest as he ran track in high school. All right. He is from Virginia Tech. He is 5'11", 209 pounds, 210 pounds around there. Like I said, he runs a 4.3. In 2024, he had 183 attempts, 1,159 rushing yards, 15 touchdowns, 6.3 yards per carry, 23 catches, a meager 81 receiving yards, and 2 touchdowns. In 2023, 173 attempts, 863 rushing yards, and 10 TDs to go with 27 catches, 239 receiving yards, and 2 touchdowns. I feel like he had an injured year that year, but if we go back the previous year before that, where he did transfer to Virginia Tech from North Carolina A&T. He had 208 attempts, 1,363 rushing yards, 13 touchdowns, 6.6 yards per carry, 31 catches, 342 receiving yards, and 4 touchdowns. The pros that I did have for him, the number one thing, explosive accelerator. He has legit 4.3 speed. He doesn't get caught from behind. His contact balance is one of the better, I think, in his class. When he rarely, goes down on first contact, and his patience. He allows his blocks to set up and takes advantage of that. And I believe he's one of the tougher runners in the inside. To only be 209 pounds, I won't say that's light, but that's also, I mean, I won't say that's light, but I won't say that's heavy either for a running back. He runs fairly well on the inside and tough as shit, as I must say. Now, a couple of cons I had, I won't even really consider it a con, but he did have an ankle injury towards the end of the year that very much slowed him down in his
Mhm.
performance toward the end of the year. And throughout the film, you can see him sometimes get bouncy. Where he tries to bounce the ball out to the perimeter a little bit prematurely, resulting in lost yardage or not picking up the most yardage that he can. And I think at the end of the day, a smart offensive coordinator will be able to get him touches early in space while he kind of develops the finer details of the position itself. I think he could make a very much a high impact when it comes to special teams and his kick return ability. I think that would be his calling card on Sundays initially. Then, but there's, I will say, the combo that he has, a very rare combo of having track speed to go along with the between the tackles type of toughness that we see from him in a
Mhm.
runner, is a rare trait, I will say. You know, and then if you want to like get him, when for him to be able to get on the field, I very much wouldn't mind watching him return kicks, and then you see those natural instincts take place. You watch him catch screens, and you can see his potential in the passing game. So one thing I do say he needs to work on is pass protection. Um, you know, he kind of is iffy there, but you know, show me a rookie running back that doesn't need help in pass protection, right? But he has the raw tools there to develop, I think, something super special. It just depends on what team he goes on. But I think he could actually, if we're talking about some of the more, you know, later guys, he has one of the higher
Mhm.
upsides for me in the game. I was in this particular class of he could be a home run, a really splash play, and be bigger than a bigger NFL player than he was a college player. But what do you think?
Man, I like that last play we just watched. It's kind of a scramble drill, and he
Yeah,
went right down the sideline and caught it like a receiver. Man, that was pretty cool. Um, some of the things I've been looking at that I like about him, he's a very violent runner. Like he's
yeah.
violent in his movements. He's violent in his steps, and he just guy has that badass mentality, like that
You
fucking
see
get
the
off me
speed right
attitude.
there. Like, oh my
And
god, bro.
the burst, like once he gets any kind of daylight, nobody's catching him from behind, which is um, which is unique for this class because I don't know if you find this, but I find that a lot of these runners in this class, they're great in the short area. They're great at getting 5 to 10 yards, but a lot of them get caught from behind. Even some of the guys we just looked at, I think maybe this class might lack a little bit of that top end speed.
Mm,
Definitely guys that can be chain movers, guys that can be workhorses, but that pure unadulterated speed is
yeah,
just a little bit lacking in this class. Outside of maybe a Trevion Henderson and a couple other guys, but he's
yeah,
got that fucking speed. speed. Like once he look look at this shit
Like
gone.
he can go. He can really go. So
And
I
what I found, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I've been kind of hearing a small drumbeat for this guy. You know, I'm starting to see a little bit of people talking about him on Blue Sky and X. Um, one guy called him the Bucky Irving of this class. Um,
mm,
doesn't have the same receiving upside, but has 4+ yards after contact in 3 out of his 4 years. Another guy, this is just crazy talk. Says if he runs what people think he might run at the combine, he could be a late first round pick. I don't know about that.
I
Running
don't know
backs,
about that
man.
one. No.
But we do know teams go crazy for speed. So, if they think he's maybe more than a running back, they think they can find, passing packages for him and treat him as a
Mm,
weapon. Maybe if he runs what a 4.35, does he start to creep up boards? Does he start to creep up our dynasty running back rookie mock rankings? Because right
I
now
think so.
I'm not even seeing him get drafted, and I don't think he didn't go drafted in our 3 round mock not
No.
too long ago. So he's definitely a guy that you have to keep your eye on because he can go from not drafted in a 3 round mock, and if he goes high in the draft in the top 2 rounds, you have to take notice. And then he starts creeping into maybe that second round of your mock draft. So this guy can quickly go from sleeper to must add in all your rookie drafts.
Yes, I will agree that he could end up having a Jalen Royals type of rise of where after the combine and if he tears it up athletically, he could very much soar up draft boards because like you said, there aren't many guys in this draft class that are burners that have that elite speed and he very much has track speed to go along, like I said, with that inner toughness of wanting to run in between the tackles, which is
Hmm.
very rare. We talk about a lot of guys like Devin A. Chain. When he came into the NFL, he was under 200 pounds, right? This guy's he's damn near touching 210 and he could legit run in the sub 4.3. I think he could run a 4.36, a 4.37. I think he'll run in the higher 4.3s, but it'll be a 4.3 though, and he'll definitely if he does that, man, I could easily see him going in that second round
If
of
he
draft.
does, if he does that, does he start to jump? Some of that second or third wave of guys. All of a sudden, he's jumping guys like maybe like a Damian Martinez, a Dylan Sampson.
I was
Um,
gonna say Dylan Sampson. He would
he
100% jump Dylan Sampson.
he might even jump like a Cam Scatterboo, even though I know he has a hive out there, but you know Scatterboo might
Like,
run a 4.65. If he does that, this guy's easily gonna jump you.
like, yeah,
So
he could like
there's a
those
lot
guys.
of guys in danger for a guy that not a lot of people. I haven't really heard any of the mainstream outlets talk about him. I've heard whispers, on the Twitters, on the X, from some smaller accounts, but the bigger accounts, I haven't heard anything about this guy.
And let them keep. Don't let them. Let's keep this a nice little secret. If it even is a secret, let them bigger accounts miss out. Because one thing for sure, I think if I had to put a mark on a handful of guys to be bigger than they were in college, Bhayshul Tuten would definitely be on my list.
Tootin'
Like the way
scootin'.
tooting, scooting, but that is our those are our guys, our five sleepers, and we might even have more
Let's
sleepers
go.
after the draft process. And we this might be just be a volume one or part two sleepers that we have, just to bring more value to you guys. I know we talk about a lot of the elite prospects, but like I said, like we've kind of said throughout this whole episode, it pays to know about those low key guys. And I think this might actually just be a part one. I think we might do a part two or a part three. We'll see how everything like ends up. But that has been today's episode. One of our funnest ones, and I miss us going over clips. This was very much a good episode. Rocco, as always, my G, my guy, my road dog. Thank you for another show. And we're going to keep bringing the content. Literally less than a week or about a week away is the NFL Combine, y'all.
We might have some boots on the ground in Green Bay.
Yeah, man. We almost got NFL Combine around the way. So we got so much more content to drop. And thank you for everybody who's tapped in with us on X, Twitter, whatever you call it. We've been more active on there as of late, and that has been great. We're still there on Blue Sky. So once again, look, if you see the banner at the below, follow us on Twitter, X, follow us on Blue Sky, follow us on YouTube. Anywhere you see us, we had a few people join our Discord this week. Welcome to the familia, and we're going to keep bringing it to y'all, the vibes. As always, this has been Fourth and Fantasy. Y'all have a good night wherever you are.
Thank you for joining.